Hi, good evening, all the students of class 12 standard. So, abhi recently I met so many students, and the students requested me कि सर आप inverse trigonometry थोड़ा समझाइए. Now, inverse trigonometry is second chapter in NCERT. Almost all the board has questions on inverse trigonometry, be it state boards or CBSE or ICSE board. You will get questions on inverse trigonometry. So the question is, what is an inverse trigonometry? Right? And how to find the inverse of a trigonometric function. What is the uses of inverse trigonometry in real life? So basically थोड़ा higher mathematics में it is used. तो जैसे आप ग्राफ बनाते हैं, फिजिक्स में आप जो ग्राफिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन करते हैं, देयर इट इज यूज्ड. इट इज somewhat some part of it is also used in software programming. So practical application थोड़ा higher mathematics में. So those who do not want to continue their career in higher mathematics, they can, don't have to stress too much on this topic. Just work properly, understand it, and then solve it. Okay. So now this topic is called inverse trigonometry. बात करते हैं यार, what is inverse trigo, right? So we'll just go back to 11th standard, and we'll find out how to find the inverse of, I think it is there in 12th standard, not in 11th, how to find the inverse of a function. So then we have studied that if there is any function which is 1, 1 and onto both, then we find the inverse of a function. 1, 1 function means f of x1 is equal to f of x2 implies that x1 is equal to x2. In simple, यहाँ पर you have a, b, c, d, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? One value exactly attached with one value of y. Maybe there is another 5, does not have any pre-image. So this 1, 2, 3, 4 are called images, a, b, c, d are called pre-images. Now here this 5 does not have any image. So still this function is 1, 1 function. One value of x attached with one value of y. For onto function, I take this same onto function. If I write 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and here write a, b, c, d. Now 1 has a pre-image A, 2 has a pre-image B, 3 has a pre-image C, 4 has a pre-image D, but 5 does not have any pre-image. So this function, this is 1, 1, but this is not an onto function. Why this is not an onto function? Because there is one element which does not have any pre-image. So all the elements should have a pre-image here. So then only this is an onto function. In terms of graph, suppose this is the graph of some function, and if you draw a line which is parallel to x-axis, and that line which is parallel to x-axis cut the graph at more than one point, then it is not a 1, 1 function. So for an inverse of a function, the function has to be 1, 1 and onto. Then only you can find the inverse of a function. Then only you can find the inverse of a function. Let's try to understand inverse of a function. So inverse trigo, right? So let us understand what is a sine function. So if I say y is equal to sine x, now this is nothing about inverse. Just discuss what is y is equal to sine x. All the values which this x can take is called domain. And all the values after putting in place of x, the values of will you get in place of y is called range. So domain is all the possible angles. Now to understand this, remember unit circle you have learnt in 12th standard. This coordinate is 1, 0. This coordinate is 0, 1. This coordinate is minus 1, 0. And this coordinate is 0, minus 1. While the first value is of sine, first value is of cos, second value is of sine, always. Remember this, y coordinate is nothing but equal to sine. And you always start from here, which is 0 degree, then goes here in anti-clockwise direction, pi by 2. Then this is pi, this is 3 pi by 2, and then again this is 2 pi. So if I ask you what is the value of sine pi by 2, so you go to pi by 2 and look at the second value. So sine pi by 2 is 1, so sine 90. If I ask you what is cos 90, so go to cos 90 and this is 0, first values of cos. Now, what happened to sine, right? In place of x, I can put this 0, pi by 2, pi, and all angles in between, right? Clockwise, anti-clockwise, and I can keep coming back. So this is called cyclic function, right? Value keep on repeating itself. This is called cyclic function. Why? The value of sine function will keep on repeating. If I say sine 30, we know that sine 30 degree is 1 by 2. 30 degree is also called pi by 6. And sine 30 is 1 by 2. Iska value 1 by 2. Now again, when you make one complete round and come back here, that means 2 pi plus 30. 2 pi is 360. 360 plus 30 is 390. So sine 390 is equal to sine 30. Both are to 1 by 2. So every time you come back here or you go anti-clockwise and come back here, in this case will be minus 270. Then also the value of sine will be 1 by 2. The sine 270 will also be 1 by 2, minus 270. Okay. So understand that there are so many angles where sine will be equal to 1 by 2. Now, x is all possible values which angles, they are all possible angles. So sine can be 0, 30, 45, 60, 90 and so on. So for sine function, what is your domain? Domain is all possible values which x can take. Domain is all possible values which x can take. All possible values which x can take. So in this case, domain is, you say, all real number. Sometimes they also write minus infinity to plus infinity. And range is when you substitute these angles, you'll get some values of sine. So all these things which are written here is your range. So look where sine is moving from where to where. Sine 0 is 0, sine 90 is 1, from 0 you 1, sine 180 is again 0, sine 270 is minus 1, and then sine 360 is again equal to 0. So you are going 0 to 1, 1 to 0, 0 to minus 1, again this. So you are ranging from minus 1 to 1, right? Ranging means the range is from minus 1 to 1. So in this case, it is minus 1 to 1. So this is basically sine function. This thing you must have studied in 12th standard, 11th standard. Now let us draw the graph of sine function using this. Right? And you write all multiples of pi by 2. So this is sine 90, sine 180, sine 270, 3 pi by 2, sine 2 pi. Here also sine of minus 90, minus pi, minus 3 pi by 2, minus 2 pi, and this is sine 0. Now if I say sine 90, so sine 90 is 1. So y value, this is y-axis, and x value will be taken here and you will get y values on y-axis. Sine 90 is 1, sine 0 is 0, sine pi is again 0, sine 3 pi by 2 is minus 1, go to 3 pi by 2, it is minus 1, sine 2 pi is 0. So in this particular half, this angle will move something like this, see. And similarly, if I say sine minus pi by 2, sine minus pi by 2, that means you have to move clockwise here. And second value, which is minus 1. So sine minus pi by 2 is minus 1 right here. Then sine 3 pi by 2 is plus 1. This is C. Remember this value is 0, 1. And this is 0, minus 1. And this is how you move. Now in this case, if I draw a line parallel to x-axis, this function is not a 1, 1 function. If it is not 1, 1, you cannot find the inverse, right? You cannot find the inverse. It's not an onto also. Onto means what? Let's say all possible angles 0, pi by 2, pi, 3 pi by 2. Here you will get all values from -1, 0 to 1. In between this only. You'll never get 2. So sine of any angle can never be equal to 2. So if I say sine theta is equal to 2 itself is a wrong statement. Sine theta will always be between this and this, no matter what angle theta is. It will always lie between -1 to 1. So now, sorry. Now we know that this is definitely not a 1, 1 function. So if not a 1, 1 function, so the question is, can we make it 1, 1 function? Because if we have to study the inverse of a function, we need to know, right? So understand this. To make this function, to find the inverse of this sine function, we have to restrict the domain. Now what is domain? See, this is your domain. You have to restrict the domain here. How you are going to restrict the domain? To restrict the domain, you have to choose some intervals, right? If I take from here to here, and if I take out the entire part out, remove this, remove this, remove this, everything you remove, right? You only take this much part from minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. And now you draw a line. Now you draw a line. You will find out that this function is 1, 1 function and this is also an onto function. Now this function will have inverse. So inverse only exists when you restrict the domain. In this case, I have restricted the domain of this function. Now understand how a sine function and its domain looks like. कंप्यूटर में जो ग्राफिक्स करते हो ना उसमें इसका बहुत काम आता है, राइट? इनवर्स ट्रिग्नोमेट्री इज यूज्ड देयर. फिजिक्स में भी देयर आर सो मेनी यूसेज, प्रैक्टिकल यूसेज, और बहुत सारे बच्चे सोचते हैं कि मैथ्स कहाँ काम आने वाला है. अब एज सच तो तुमसे कोई जाके पूछेगा नहीं कि बता भाई इनवर्स ट्रिग्नोमेट्री का क्या मतलब है, साइन थीटा कॉस थीटा इसका क्या मतलब है लाइफ में. But maths enhances your problem solving ability. Right? You start thinking differently. You start thinking, you become more like an analyst, right? You analyze the situation and it develops your problem solving ability. That means you look at the question, then you find out 3, 4 solutions for it, right? Whichever best solution you find is good, you apply that, provided that has to follow all the norms. So now, in this case, from minus infinity to plus infinity is the domain. We restricted the domain. So normally, if I say y is equal to sine x and x belongs to from minus pi by 2 to pi by 2, minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. So now this function has an inverse. Understand, I can also restrict the domain from pi by 2 to 3 pi by 2. But that is a part of IIT. भी यहाँ तक दिखते हैं. So now this function has an inverse. Now how to find out inverse or how to write the inverse? So you take this x and take this sine to this side. So don't write y upon sine. You simply write this as sine inverse of y. Right? So now this is called an inverse function. And remember, this was the domain of this function. And the range of this function is from -1 to +1 and all values between this. The moment you take inverse of a function, right? What happened to its domain and the range? What happened to its domain and range? I'll write sine inverse of y. And domain is all possible values of y. So over there, over here, this is your domain and this is your range. In inverse function, your domain and range interchange. Right? So your domain becomes range, which is -1 to 1, and your range becomes from minus pi by 2 to positive pi by 2 included. Square bracket means these values are included. Similarly, we can draw the graph of cos inverse of function and find out the domain and range of that, and then restrict the domain and then find the inverse. So I'm just writing it here. If you do not understand, message me on my YouTube channel is also there. I will make a video on all possible graphs. As far as cos inverse is concerned, its domain is also from -1 to. See, it is basically a range of inverse function, but the moment take inverse, so cos function, the moment take inverse, domain becomes range and range becomes domain. And what about range? Range is from 0 to pi. Range is from 0 to pi. Then you can also find out the domain and range of cos function. Note down this. Noted on this. Okay. As far as tan inverse of y is concerned, देखो मैं अभी तीनों का लिख देता हूँ. Remaining I'll tell you. Got late today. I have काम भी करना है, लेकिन मैं यूनिट सर्कल से थोड़ा सिखा देता हूँ, right? This is your unit circle. However, we can see it, right? This is what 1, 0. This is what 0, 1. This is -1, 0, and this is 0, -1. Tan is nothing but sine upon cos. So 0 upon 1 is 0. 1 upon 0 is not defined. 0 upon -1 is again 0. And -1 upon 0 is, let's say, negative infinity. So tan in a सारी values लेता है from 0 to positive infinity. Now draw number line 0 to positive infinity to again 0, and 0 to negative infinity. So when it comes to tan inverse of a function, the domain, which is -infinity to +infinity, will become range, right? Will become range. That means -infinity to +infinity, -infinity to +infinity. And what will be the domain? Since we have to restrict the domain in this case, so what will be the domain? Any idea? Sorry, ulta. Sorry. This will be from -infinity to +infinity. Inverse function ka domain. What happened to the range here? For inverse function, what happened to the range? See, when I say tan 90, not defined, right? Tan 90 is not defined. Tan -90 is also not defined. So I cannot include pi by 2. So I have to use C bracket. So minus pi by 2 to pi by 2, but I cannot include this because the moment I include this, it will take infinite, it will become infinite. So I cannot take that. So that is why tan inverse has domain from minus infinity to plus infinity. As far as range is concerned, it is from minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. Range I told you, value क्या होता है? Right? Range means if I write x is equal to tan inverse of y. So this is your domain. The domain means all possible angles here. Range will always be from minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. उल्टा हो गया. Right? यहाँ पर ये उल्टा था, right? This minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, minus infinity to plus infinity, जब x का कोई एंगल रखते हैं तब आता है, right? तो ये रेंज था, रेंज बन जाता है डोमेन इनवर्स. Then we have other trigonometric function. अगर other trigonometric function नहीं आते तो you can just remember these three, you will get all the answers. So I'll get all the answers. I'll be making another video. You can also follow my YouTube channel by name Maths Pirates. कोशिश करते हैं कि यार आप लोगों को मैथ्स अच्छा हो जाए. I'll try to improve, try to bring in the best possible solutions for the questions, and those who are answering NDA, those who are answering JEE main and other entrance exam might get some benefit out of this. So thank you so much. We'll make another video on the problems of this principal solution and then how to find out the solutions for difficult problem. Thank you.